Hello everyone, welcome to Series 2 of the GBA Lightbulb Sessions. The Great British Entrepreneur Awards, in association with BT Skills for Tomorrow, have designed a free live stream series of Lightbulb Sessions to support small businesses and entrepreneurs with insightful and advice-driven sessions featuring some of the UK's brilliant entrepreneurial minds to illuminate your path to entrepreneurial success. You can find out more about BT Skills for Tomorrow by heading to their website at www.bt.com/skills for tomorrow or by clicking on the link in the comments section. In today's session, Great British Entrepreneur Awards founder Francesca James will speak with founder of Sprat and ShoutOut, Dan Gable. Dan will explore how you can effectively apply video to your marketing strategy and create engaging content to tell a story about your business, product, or you as the entrepreneur behind the brand. There is an opportunity to ask questions during the session. If you have a question you'd like to ask, you can pop this in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer these throughout the session. And with that, I'll pass over to our host today, Francesca James.
Thank you so much, Chloe, and thank you, Dan, for joining us today. Delighted to welcome you to the Lightbulb Sessions.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So it's been a really popular session today, and lots of people are interested in our topic, which is video and how entrepreneurs, how businesses can use video for their businesses. So I'm going to start off. Actually, let me start off by asking you to give a bit of an intro to the room. I think that's a sensible point.
Sure, great. Yeah, so my name's Dan Gable. I've been involved in video for like over 30 years. I was co-owner of a post-production company that pretty much was one of the first companies to really scale editing and creating TV shows on computers. So really from a very early stage. And then I founded Sprat, which is a video production company that works with all sorts of large companies producing videos, and ShoutOut, which is a web app that enables you to make videos completely automatically.
Fantastic. So we met about a year ago, I think. It was you popped into my inbox in LinkedIn and told me about ShoutOut, which I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to talk about at some point today. And I think, like everyone, you get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, but as soon as I clicked the link, I thought, oh, where has this been all of my life? This is fantastic. It's a brilliant tool, and we've used it so much via the Great British Entrepreneur Awards. I'm sure lots of people on the call have probably used it themselves, because we've sent them links to record videos that we've turned into content for Great British Entrepreneur Awards. But let's start out. What makes a really good video? So a bit of an open question there.
It's a good question. The thing is, the truth of what makes a really great video is no one actually knows. It's a bit like a kind of great song whereby, you kind of know it when you see it, but to get there, it's really difficult. If people knew how to make a really great video, every video would be great. So if people knew how to write a great song, every song would be great. But what we know is that there's some sort of kind of voodoo magic dust associated with it. And it's not about money. It's not about production values necessarily. It's just about, there's a spirit to a great video and a feeling and a way it connects with people. So that's what makes a really, truly great video.
Fantastic. And with more than 500, let me get my numbers right. 500 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every hour. Video is incredibly saturated at the moment. So why do you think it's still so important for brands?
Yeah, video is hugely important. I think, firstly, because it's almost three-dimensional, because you've got sound and you've got pictures. So a bit like if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you're communicating with your voice, but you're also seeing images. So it makes it a very quick way to deliver information. And also, of course, we've all been brought up with TV and film, and we kind of understand that genre. And it's a way for people to really form relationships, but like people can form relationships with actors and musicians and people that they've never even met before over video. So it's a great way to do that. So it's still really relevant. There's things, I don't know if you've been on Clubhouse, which is great, but that works really well, but it's almost radio. Whereas video is the full story, I think.
Fantastic, thank you. And are there any styles of content or subjects that you've seen that you might recommend sort of avoiding in order for entrepreneurs and their brands to stand out for the crowd? Is there anything that's a bit overused and therefore you think it doesn't have the same impact as it might have once done?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because I think it's always good to experiment with video and to be really open about how you kind of communicate your message. So I think in terms of genres, it's not so much the genre, it's about like, don't be boring. That's the main thing. I think a lot of people try and look at TV or look at films and try and replicate that in a very sort of low budget way. And videos are really, really difficult to make, especially feature films and TV. And I think, don't be boring and don't trying to make something like something else, like a poor version of something else. I mean, I think really, really be true to yourself and what you want to say. Focus on what the audience wants or what your audience wants. Yeah, so I think all genres are valid. Yeah, this is video. This is a genre. This is an interview. And it's done over a collaboration platform, but it still makes it valid because hopefully the content is interesting. It might not be, but I hope it is. So yeah, I think don't rule anything out. Be original, wow your audience, and try anything really.
Yeah. I'd like to have a talk about storytelling, and I think that we've seen a lot of big brands sort of switching from product-focused videos to telling stories in recent years. And why do you think that's such an important tool in video, in using video for marketing? And also, are there any great examples that you've seen or any top tips that you've got from a storytelling point of view?
Sure. Yeah. So storytelling, I mean, like, firstly, as humans, we can't really exist without storytelling. Our whole life is really a narrative. The way we go about our lives, we're telling ourselves stories and we're creating stories in order to do things. Without our innate ability to tell stories, it's really what makes us human. So when you talk about storytelling in video, really what you're talking about is people kind of getting involved in your story, as opposed to the stories that we all have in our heads. And I think, I think our relationship to brands and companies have really changed now, where people want to kind of get to the why rather than the what. People want to know why people are doing things. What's the motivation? What's the history of the company? What's the history of the individual? And I think that's really important in terms of being able to tell that narrative to people. More than just a product. I think we're living in a world now where there's so much of everything. That any product that you can really make, apart from ShoutOut, of course, because that's like a one-off and completely original and amazing. But any product you make, there's going to be competition, and really you've got to look for that differentiator, and the differentiator is the people, the founders, the people that work at the company itself. So I think it's really important to be telling those stories in video, and video is a great way to do that. And sorry, you asked some other bits, didn't you? So some tips. Oh God, I mean, there's so many that I can't let. Can I come back to thinking about what like videos that I really like? I mean, I just remember some really funny spoof videos that are fantastic, and videos where they answer maybe a critic from that's kind of trolled something. I think there was one about I can't remember what it was about, sort of periods and stuff. That they kind of had this sort of mock up of a complaint. I think it was sort of saying that, I can't remember what the product was, but anything that really telling a story in a sort of surprising and a delightful way is always going to work, and where you're taking risks and really sort of being authentic.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to take the chance now to encourage anybody, if they've got any questions to ask, to pop them in the Q&A function. But we've had a brilliant one come in from Rachel Hayward, and it was something that was at the back of my head to ask you, so I'm going to do so now. Subtitles. So Rachel says, I really want to make sure that my videos are accessible. My tech skills aren't the best, so I will be using my iPhone and doing them on the hop. This fits with the brand of the company, i.e. not too serious. It would be great to get your thoughts on subtitles, if there's anything that and if there's any tools that you've come across that you would recommend to the audience today.
Sure, I think so. Subtitles are really interesting, certainly on social media. There's a school of thought which is, when you're scrolling through social media, it's almost like, think of it as like your level of engagement. So, you look at a video, you see the subtitles, you start to kind of decide whether that's an interesting subject for you without committing to kind of pressing the button and hearing the sound. So I think on the whole, they're a really good thing. They do give you that extra dimension and a way to kind of ease people into your content. So I absolutely agree with them. And of course, there's a kind of accessibility element as well with the like closed captioning that we're for subtitles. So I can't answer the next bit without plugging ShoutOut, but with ShoutOut we create automatic subtitles, or automatic editable subtitles, so you can basically upload your video, press a button, it goes away and generates the subtitles, and you can edit them and kind of make sure that they're right. So a great tool, because subtitles are a pain to do, especially on longer videos. We've done our fair share of putting subtitles on manually, and it's difficult. But certainly, I think the other thing about subtitles is and on LinkedIn, there's a real LinkedIn style now, where you've got the kind of banner and the call to action at the top, and the subtitles at the bottom, and the rectangular screen in the middle. It's almost become a bit of a format, and I think it's a really strong format, because what subtitles do in terms of helping tell the story, your call to action text at the top is almost your headline is really important as well. So again, with ShoutOut, we can create those videos automatically. I'm sorry for plugging it again, but I think it's a really strong format, and it's become more and more prevalent on LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that as an organisation, we've started using subtitles more exactly for what Rachel said, from an accessibility point of view. But we do definitely notice that there's more engagement, and it's interesting to hear it articulated that on social media, you might read the first sentence before actually clicking to hear the sound and sort of fully immerse yourself in the video. I think that sort of quite nicely leads on to the next point, in that people are filtering the content that they want to consume in a way that they haven't done previously. Attention spans, famously, there's so much research about the attention spans of us humans now. So how difficult in business is it to overcome that in terms of creating video content? What is the secret sauce to keeping someone hooked?
Sure. Yeah, let me just address the attention span thing, because the attention span thing is a tricky one, and I think it's been talked about wrongly, actually. And there is a lot of research, but what people are saying is our attention spans are getting shorter. I don't necessarily buy that, because if you look at things like Netflix, there's an increase in binge watching of Netflix. I do it myself, and I keep sitting all night watching, the Queen's Gambit or something. So I don't think that they're necessarily getting shorter. But what is happening is it's getting much harder to grab people's attention, because there is so much content. So it's really about being able to grab people quickly. People are really intolerant of something that is kind of slow and boring at the beginning. Even like a title sequence, anything over a couple of seconds or 3 seconds starts to get boring. And I think people go wrong with that. They try and it's a bit like going back to storytelling. It's a bit like we haven't got time to kind of build up to a climactic finish, so to speak. You've really got to kind of get in quick with something. You've noticed it in TV now probably quite a lot, where they almost give you highlights right at the beginning, so telling you what's coming. So I think that's, you've got to, from the get-go, you've got to get people's attention. But then when you've got people's attention, I'm not saying that we can all make Netflix episodic dramas that completely engage us, but then once people are engaged, they will engage for a while. You don't have to make the content super short all the time, but yeah, absolutely, you need to, from the get-go, get people's attention. I mean, one other thing, I watch a lot. I'm a BAFTA member and like a vote on the film, so I watch a lot of films. And what I found is I was talking to someone about this yesterday, is that if you get a film that's really boring at the beginning, it doesn't tend to get any better. And I think people sort of feel that and know, in anything, you even if it's like hundreds of millions of dollars feature film, they can still get it wrong. So it's really about capturing people right from the start. And sorry, one more point, just going back to subtitles, that's important as well, because on subtitles, that's the bit that they're going to be reading. And you want that, you know, if there is subtitles, you want what's being sort of written on the subtitles just to really engage people.
Yeah, just an observation on subtitles that wasn't mentioned, and something that I think is really interesting. One of our hosts, who a lot of people might know through the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, a guy called Ollie Barrett, he's actually been recently campaigning for Netflix and a lot of the on-demand services to turn the subtitles on as standard. So they've got a lovely acronym called TOTS, for turn on the subtitles. And the reason that it's TOTS and it works very nicely is actually that there's a huge amount of evidence that subtitles also increase literacy levels, and they are, they're promoting that from a children's point of view. So if anybody's got brands that are facing a young audience, it's perhaps a sort of really compelling thing to think about doing as well for all of the content that you're putting out. So anyway,
yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, let's get like what we said before. It's kind of makes it even more three-dimensional, where you've got, that's what's great about video. You've got pictures and sound, but having subtitles on as well creates another dimension. A bit like having graphics on a video as well. It all adds to the experience for sure.
Yeah, I've got two questions that have come in that are pretty much what I was going to ask. So I'm going to sort of try and combine all three. It might be a bit clunky, but hopefully Karen and anonymous attendee, I'll get the answers that you want. The first part of the question is, how important do you think it is for a brand to be producing video regularly? So not just a one-off, because this anonymous attendee said it can be a huge cost. Now, I would have definitely agreed with them a few years ago, but I think, and I'm pretty certain that you're going to tell me as well, that actually the barriers to entry in terms of creating video, the devices we have in our hands and the access to technology has lowered that cost somewhat. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Video, people, this is, I think, where people go wrong mostly with video. They create a one-off video, they put their money into, they blow the budget on one video, and then they think that that's going to help them. With the exception, everyone needs an explainer video on a website, and I think that's really important. But video, you've got to think of it as episodic. It's so important, and to the point where you make videos yourself, but make them regularly. It's a bit like, when I think about, it's just a kind of strange analogy, but I've sort of become friends with my neighbors, and you become friends with your neighbors by kind of walking past them, every day, and after a few days you start to get chatting, and then you become friends. And it's exactly the same with video. Video is forming a relationship, and you're not going to do it with just one video. It just won't happen. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, ShoutOut was designed exactly to do that, to make episodic video. I'm a huge fan of episodic video. So the idea is, with ShoutOut, you make videos completely automatically, film them on your phone, create a branding template, and it turns it into a video completely automatically, and you can add subtitles and any kind of design elements. So it's so important to, over and above everything, is to make regular videos. It's really important.
Yeah, and obviously we've come on to ShoutOut a couple of times, just to point out to the audience, this isn't, Dan is a video expert, and but has created a phenomenal product that we're really happy to be using. And this is not a paid for plug by any stretch of the imagination, but we just I guess from a user point of view, to let you guys know what we use ShoutOut for and why it's been so interesting. As for us, we as the Great British Entrepreneurs, we have quite a large community, and often we want to hear from them, and we want to see their faces and see what they're up to. And what ShoutOut has allowed us to do is to create an intro and an outro, so that the lovely sort of branded graphics at the beginning. We've got the capability to do that in-house, but there is the option for those that don't to use templates that ShoutOut have already got, and then send out a link to contributors. So for us, that's the entrepreneurs within our community, but that could be customers for testimonials, that could be it could be any number of things. And essentially, once they've recorded the video and they've hit submit, the system will ask them to put their name and their title in, so that you get that lovely bar that sort of appears as if it were a news program saying, this is Dan Gable from ShoutOut. And essentially, and this is a really bad analogy, I think, but it's almost like, because we've been doing it en masse and sometimes we've been sending out 300 links and got some fantastic content. It's almost like a mail merge for video, in that once those links have gone out, the individuals that we've sent the links to submit their videos, and we log into the system within a minute or two. We have a whole gallery of branded videos that have the right music, the right titles, slides, the right branding. And it's a fraction of the cost of what we would have paid, which, you know, back in the day, we would have sort of gone around with a video crew interviewing people, which A, we can't do at the moment because of restrictions, but B, was really expensive for a small business. So that's me giving you the plug, because it really is.
Yeah, thanks. No, thank you for. But it's true. I mean, the thing is, it's again sort of going back to the very first question about what makes a great video, and it's true, no one knows. And I think the only way to really get a great video is just to keep trying and to keep going and to keep getting that content, because you never know. You know, with user generated content, customer testimonials are so important these days, and they're. They can be so cheap to make as well. So by sending out links to customers, or like embedding a widget on the website, you can do a shout out to kind of grab testimonials or reviews. You never know, like that it might be someone that you hadn't even met that gives you the best testimonial, the best kind of endorsement that, that's really powerful and heartfelt and honest. And, that's gold for a company. And, I think it's really just about, like you say, just sending out as many. The mail merge is a great analogy. Just sending out as many links as possible, and trying as many avenues. Making these regular videos.
Fab. And just to point out to anybody here, we will drop a link to shout out in the follow-up email. So if anyone wants to check it out, or got any questions for Dan, you can link up with him on LinkedIn. I think his bio is in the chat section. So we've talked about cost a few times, and Karen asks, have you got any top tips for a B2B organization making its first video? We're thinking of a 2 or 3 minute video. What sort of budget is reasonable when reaching a professional market?
Yeah, it's a good question. Firstly, I'd say this is a mistake that a lot of people make, and apologies, but don't think about it. People always say, I want to make a video and I want it to be 3 minutes long or 2 minutes long or one. I wouldn't think about the length of it, because that would already constrain you. Just think about the audience, think about what you want to say. Length of video is so elastic. If you're watching a boring video, it's going to feel like an eternity. If you're watching a really great video, 5 minutes will fly by really quickly. So don't get bogged down with length. And also, it sounds like you might be looking for an outside agency to do that. If you're looking at budget, don't make that. The other thing about how Sprat is an outside agency. We make videos all the time, and the longer the video, the cheaper and easier it is to make. The shorter the video, it gets harder and harder and harder. And when you get down to kind of really short videos, why TV adverts are so expensive to make, it gets harder because you're condensing down that information to a short time. It's a real, it's a real kind of lesson in storytelling and kind of miniaturization, really. So to answer your question about budget, the way to look at it is to think about the budget that you want to spend, that you're comfortable spending. Bear in mind, again, you want episodic ideally rather than one-off, and then work to that budget. And people always hate doing this. They hate doing this. Sprat is, I always say to people, what's your budget? First question, what's your budget? And no one wants to tell you. But the thing is, it's almost like, walking into a travel agent saying, not great analogy at the moment, but I want to go on holiday. The first thing is, well, like, is it kind of the Bahamas, or is it Ibiza? You need to define your budget, because that will dictate what that video is gonna be like. The worst thing you can do is try and aim for a high budget video, but do it on a low budget. It just doesn't work, and it actually does you a huge disservice, because don't forget, videos are a real representation of your brand, and you're better to do like a kind of cheaper production well than try and do something big budget badly. But yeah, I mean, in monetary terms, it could be anything from like, you know, £2,000 or £3,000 to £23,000. You know, I think it's a really difficult question to answer. So apologies for that, but I don't know how to answer it any better.
Can I ask you, Dan, obviously Karen's question sort of alluded to budget and therefore getting an agency. What we all now have these incredible devices. My new one arrived this morning, and the camera on it is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm not on TikTok myself, but I see people share TikToks. And I saw one this morning of a girl who set up a studio in her bedroom, and she created what looked like an advert. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was on TV for Sprite. And she actually showed all of the steps that she'd done in terms of creating it. You know, how much can an amateur like myself, and I'm sure there's lots of other people in the room that would identify as that, can you do for your brand with a phone? And what other key bits of kit from a basic point of view would you recommend investing in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I mean, God, it's listen, like technology is never going to be the problem. With respect to everyone out there, the phone that you have in your pocket is going to be better than you at creating a video, if that makes sense. Like the technology is never a constraint. It's a bit like, you know, when video makers start out, they get better and better cameras, and it doesn't take long to realize that actually the camera's not the problem. And it's the same with kit. Everyone's got enough kit that they need to make the most of an amazing video. If anyone could do it, then anyone can do it. You can do it. So that's the important thing. I mean, I looked at the cameras we use at Sprat. That, you know, we take out a couple of them. They're £10,000 each with the lenses. You know, it's hugely expensive. But I saw a YouTube video that compared these cameras to an iPhone, and there wasn't really much in it, to be honest. You know, that iPhone cameras, Android cameras are doing a lot of clever stuff. So just forget everything you think about that you haven't got enough equipment, because you have. So, you know, and also the other thing is, you know, we're living in a world at the moment of you know, where authenticity is really important, and what we are finding is that, you know, the kind of lo-fi look sometimes really engages an audience better than over production value. You know, if you're looking at a brand, or you're looking to buy a product from a brand, at some level you're gonna look at these kind of hugely expensive videos and think, well, like, I'm kind of paying for that somehow. You know, and I think people really respond to creativity, to kind of lo-fi-ness, you know. So what I'm saying is, it's not about the equipment, it's about the ideas, and anyone is capable of having a great idea, whether like me, you've been doing it for years, or whether you've been doing it for 2 minutes. You know, there is an argument to say, actually, sort of the amateurs out there might come up with the better ideas and the more original ideas, because they're not sort of bogged down with how things are supposed to be. So, you know, it's really about ideas and how you can execute them with the technology you've got. You know, be original, be funny, be true to yourself, true to your brand. And the other thing to say, I mean, it's slightly off topic, but, you know, it's really, you know, when you're doing the plug for ShoutOut, I was kind of getting a bit sort of, you know, embarrassed, because I think there's something, maybe it's a British thing about, you know, we're sometimes a bit embarrassed to sell. But I think, you know, with video, you know, if you've got a great product, then don't be embarrassed to sell it. Just, you know, if people are going to benefit from your product, you know, you've got a duty to tell them, just to say, like, this is a great product, this is why. So, you know, don't be embarrassed to sell with video. Just to, you know, you know, be front and center on a screen, and just say what you know, say what your product is. I see a lot. One more thing is, again, slightly digressing, but I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn about, you know, complaining about people, you know, sending personalized messages with their elevator pitch or something, and saying that, like, you know, that's a terrible thing. I actually really like it. You know, probably shouldn't have said that if I get lots of messages, but I'd rather someone just say, look, this is what we do. I think it's going to be great for you. Check it out, you know, and it's brilliant. You know, I don't necessarily have to form this relationship with people all the time. Sorry?
I said that's exactly what you did to me.
Well, there you go. But yes, exactly. But I think, you know, I think that sort of people kind of say that that's not a great thing. And I think the people that maybe sometimes say that's not a great thing haven't actually read the emails, because, you know, well, that's a great example. So when I did that to you, I saw what you did, and I just genuinely thought, wow, this is a perfect fit. And I just, you know, like I just said it, like this could be great for you. And well, it sounds like it was, which is great. So maybe a non-bit of video advice, you know, when you get a message like a DM on LinkedIn or something, just take a second to read it. They're storytellers as well. If it's a huge body of text, they've messed it up, you know, a bit like in video, that maybe just drop one back saying, send me something shorter, without bothering to read it. But yeah, I just think, you know, don't be afraid to sell with video. I think that's really important.
Brilliant. Harry's asked a really good practical question. Music for video. Where can I'm going to assume that most of our audience are running small businesses. You know, it can be expensive when you search online. Where's the best places to look?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's lots of sources of music out there, to be honest, and for varying prices. You know, with you know, music and videos, there's two categories. There's music that's really part of the narrative and is kind of telling that story along with everything else, or there's music that kind of is bubbling on underneath just to augment the narrative and to kind of sort of add to it rather than be it. So I mean, we use something called Artlist, which is really good. It's really cheap. There's tons of, you know, there's kind of
art.
Yeah, I think it's called Artlist. It's a great resource. There's story blogs, which is a really good resource actually. That's really cheap, and that's got like stock footage and music, which is great, and sound effects as well, which is really important. Yeah, let me have a think. I mean, maybe if you're reaching out afterwards, I can have a think and post some links up. But also, you know, there's you know, I think there's editing software now that you can do a free trial of that has sort of copyright-free music in it as well. ShoutOut's got a list of copyright-free music. But I think, you know, that's a really good point. Be careful with music. You don't want to infringe someone's copyright and be taken down. So just make sure it is cleared. I think you could do Google searches where you can filter by usage as well. You may even be able to find music there. And also reach out to composers. You know, there's a lot of kind of composers out there that you know, maybe have a few tracks that they're happy for you to use, you know, just to build their profile. If they get a credit, you know, for example, that would be great. So there are lots of sources.
Fantastic, thank you. And the ever efficient Chloe has already popped the link in for Artlist into the comments. So so that is there if anybody wants to have a look. We've got a question from, in fact, they're all anonymous at the moment. I like the idea of making a video to tell my followers about myself as the entrepreneur behind the brand. How would you recommend that I stand out from the crowd?
I mean, how you stand out from the crowd is you know, it's not necessarily a video question. Actually, it's a kind of how you communicate yourself question. You know, because I think in terms of video, just by framing yourself up like this and talking to the camera, which I'm probably not doing, the camera's there, you know, just saying who you are and what you do is really powerful. You know, you don't need to be any fancier than that, really, just front and center telling your story. So I think about, you know, the story you want to tell. Think about the way to tell it as quickly and as kind of efficiently as possible, so it doesn't take a long while. You've got a phone, practice it, you know, a few times, get that right, and then just, you know, don't try and be too clever with it. Just really let people know about you, you know, and hook people in from the beginning. So it's really, you know, it becomes less about video, it becomes more about kind of who you are, you know, what you want to convey, you know, all this important stuff. You know, I think people, there is an artistry to video. There is a kind of structure of how you make videos, but really the content of the video is so much more important than the artistry. I mean, you see, you know, you can see these kind of videos that are meant look like bad versions of TV chat shows and stuff, and you know, it's really about the content. You know, like I say, this is the simplest form of video really you can make, and you know, if the content is valid, probably, sorry, that's probably really insulting, because I'm sure you put a lot of work into it, and it's amazing. But you know what I mean. It's the content that's more important than the production value. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure if it has, but just front and center, just tell your story and spend a bit of time, working on that story.
I think it does answer the question, and I know that you sort of answered it through the video lens and then the non-video lens, and I guess maybe to add, for what it's worth, my thoughts on the non-video lens. I think authenticity in video, which is what Dan was saying, is huge. There's a few brands that are in our Great British Entrepreneurs community who will very often talk to their followers, whom they consider their community and who the community consider to be part of that, just literally holding the phone like that. No production effects. It's the authenticity. Yeah. It's talking about when there's a problem, they can articulate it better than they might be able to in a written statement. When there's something to celebrate, when their followers might want to see that there's something new or exciting that they're working on. And just off the top of my head, two founders who I've seen do it incredibly well. I've forgotten her surname, but it's Lucy, who's the founder of Lucy and Yak, who are a dungaree brand, and also Rory Fairburns, who's the founder of 1 Year No Beer. They'll very often get on, do a very quick video just to update their followers on what they're doing, and it's really helped people to buy into the founder's story, which is, it's what we're all about at Great British Entrepreneurs Community. Our strapline is founders are as much about their story as they are their balance sheet, and I think that it's important to tell those stories.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, I just add to that that's what ShoutOut was designed to do. What we noticed was that sometimes we're making really big big budget customer story videos, and actually sometimes the more authentic kind of comments came up before and after the video itself, and it's really there's something great about a phone in terms of it doesn't freak people out so much. It's not lights and cameras, and it's a great tool to capture authenticity, and that's exactly what people want. Absolutely. And the other thing to say about that, one of the hardest things in TV is finding on-screen talent. Again, like I did the song analogy. Someone that's really great on TV, they make it look so easy. And they do have a natural ability, but it's sometimes quite tricky. So, in an organization, it's maybe, find user-generated content, find other people that might be able to be your brand ambassadors. And that, I'm not talking about paid influencers necessarily. I'm talking about other people in the company. Find people that just have that ability to speak on camera. It doesn't necessarily have to be you if you're uncomfortable with it, because they can still tell the brand story or get them to interview you or whatever. Because I think it's really important just to be engaging and be entertaining.
Fantastic. Harry asks, do I need impressive graphics and imagery, or would you say it's all about the content?
I don't know what impressive means. So I would say, but by that word impressive, I'd say no, because if you're trying to, this is the other thing people get really wrong with video. They try and, they make it about them and their, production value. So like people, honestly, from someone that's been doing this a long time, if you're not like a big agency with a big budget, your graphics aren't probably going to be impressive as much as you think they are. So just keep it simple. You don't want to try, because it's almost like showing off. You don't necessarily want to kind of be impressive to people. You kind of want to be humble and give them information. If a simple graphic can convey the information, that's going to be more powerful than kind of doing some whiz bang graphic that's just sort of a bit showy offy or a bit flash, as they say. So I would just keep it simple. Think about what your audience wants. I see, for example, it's a classic, I see people making these kind of really fancy graphics that you can't actually read them. They're not on screen quick enough, or, so which is terrible, so that it's clearly they haven't really thought about the audience. They haven't thought about what they want. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah, keep it simple. Don't show off. Don't video is not about, people get funny with video. They try and kind of do these really great production values, like living some sort of dream of being a filmmaker. It's not about that. leave that to the people with the big budgets and the experts, because it is tricky. And if you miss the mark doing that, it's really embarrassing as well, because and sometimes people don't realize they've missed the mark. It's other people that realize they've missed the mark. So yeah, keep it simple.
We've got another question here that that I think we've already answered, but it's in addition to the question I asked. So I just want to make sure that this attendee hears the answer and see if there's anything else that we wanted to add. So it's around, again, the length of video you'd recommend for creating an eye-catching video, conscious that people might not want to watch a long video. Now, Dan earlier did say that actually it's not necessarily about the length of the video, it's about telling your story, having the impact. But I guess, Dan, is there a magic amount of minutes?
Supposedly there is, and the magic number gets less every year, by the way. It used to be 5 minutes, now it's kind of 2.5. So I just honestly don't subscribe to it myself personally, but there is a magic number. But the real answer is make it as short as it could possibly be, and no shorter. Really is the answer. So if you've made a video and you can make it shorter, make it shorter. Keep making it shorter till you can't make it any shorter without losing valuable information. And that's valuable information, not any information. Like if your title sequence is 20 seconds long, it's too long. If it's 3 seconds long, that's great. If it's 2 seconds long and you can't read what it says, then it's too short. But just make it just enough to be able to read it, for a reasonable speed, and that's the right time. So don't get bogged down with the length of it. Because a bit like the answer to the about kind of attention spans. Like I said before, we binge on Netflix. So you could have a video that's 50 minutes long if it's really interesting. I've watched Steve Jobs interviews that are just one camera, and they're like half an hour, but they're like riveting because it's him. So don't get too bogged down with it. But I guess to answer your question, at the moment it's kind of around 2.5 minutes, but you don't want to do like a great 30-second video and ruin it by making it 2.5 minutes because you think that's the optimum time. Yeah. The last thing I briefly did a stint, shouldn't say this really, but as a stand-up comedian. And I really loved it, actually. And it taught me so much about video making. This was quite a while ago now, because in the writing process of a joke is very, very similar process to a video. Jokes have to, like you can make a joke too short that it doesn't make sense, but you can also, like when you watch great comedians, no word is wasted. Every single word matters. And I hear that people talk about the same about pitch decks. It's really important that every word has a purpose, and it's the same with video. You really want to spend time like getting to that stage, and that's what's really gonna drive engagement, rather than just turning a camera on and just waffling like I am doing now. So apologies, but think about it and don't worry too much about the length.
Fantastic. What about sharing videos once they're made? Any recommendations?
Sharing them, how do you mean, on social or?
That's all the question asked, but I'm assuming they mean that. And I guess, there's the obvious sort of YouTubes, which then allow you to embed on any site as well. Is there anything else? Is there any methods that people should be using?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I think each platform has its own grammar. TikTok has its grammar, LinkedIn has its grammar, YouTube and Facebook. People talk about YouTube being longer, but you can make videos that are kind of good for everything. So absolutely, you want to share your videos, of course, but also again. I talk about ShoutOut. The one thing that ShoutOut can do, which is really interesting, is you can personalize a video. So you could create like an outro of being your value proposition video. You could say, I could do a little thing saying, "Hey, Francesca, I think this video will be great for you. Check it out, see what you think." And I can make that video automatically and post it on social. So in terms of, I think don't be afraid to, obviously with ShoutOut you can do that, but don't be afraid to post videos to individuals, because I think there's this big thing about posting it to everyone, but sometimes your customers might not happen to see it, or people that you want to see it. So yeah, absolutely, you should be emailing them, sending them out, DMing them to people. Don't think just because you posted it online that's the end of it, because absolutely not. It's great to receive a video. You probably, engagement rates, if someone sent you a video, pretty much you're going to watch it, right? Because you think you trust them, and you're going to watch it. And I think that's how things become viral, almost by this peer-to-peer, one-to-one sharing of videos. So, and sometimes that gets overlooked.
Fantastic. And we mentioned, you mentioned viral there, and I guess this sort of vaguely ties in. And great question to end the session on. What video content trends do you think we're going to see in 2021?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the trends are going to be around authenticity. Actually, when I look at LinkedIn, I'm seeing that like the non-video LinkedIn posts are they're really going towards sort of being heartfelt, being kind of emotive, being vulnerable, and being honest. And I think that's really great. When it's kind of fabricated, it doesn't work at all. But you can, we're all quite sophisticated animals, and we can smell that. And I think video is I hope going to go that way as well, where it is going to be kind of people talking to camera, people being vulnerable and honest, and people, not necessarily promoting, but using video to help engage in conversation, and also getting other people to appear in those videos as well. It's great to have kind of contributors to your video, and like, again, sorry, a shout out plug, but you can send out a link and you can do a montage of opinion, for example. But I think that's going to really, come to the fore, like you're starting to see with text quotes. And also I think we're going to move slightly away from big production value as well. It seems to be in line with the kind of eco world we're living in, and the kind of sense of economy, and I think we might get to a stage where these big production value will become like a huge reception area. For an office, it will start to feel potentially a bit crass or a bit kind of wasteful. So I think it's a great time for people to be making their own videos and to grab a camera and do that, because I think it's the time, it's of its time now.
Fantastic. Well, what a fantastic statement to end on. There's a couple of questions that have come in that we haven't got around to, Dan, but I would encourage, we're out of time now, I would encourage everybody to link up with Dan. His LinkedIn profile is in the comments, and I hope it's not too bold of me to assume, Dan, that you're happy to have a chat to people offline.
100%, would love to, yeah, absolutely.
We will also circulate the link around to the services that Dan recommended, as well as shout out, and like I said, we're a fan at Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and can share with you guys some examples of videos we've done through the system. So it's a real life testimonial. Lots of thank you comments coming through in the chat section, Dan. So thank you very much.
Great.
I might pass over to you to finish.
Thanks so much
for joining us today and sharing your expertise and knowledge. What a great session this has been. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
No, not really. Just go for it. Just get out there and make some videos, and yeah, just go for it.
Thank you very much.
We've had a question come in. Any chance of a joke to finish from Brad?
No, I probably not.
Our next Lightbulb session will be at the same time next week with Simon and Abby from Mention Me, as they discuss fueling growth from happy customers. If there is anything you'd like to catch up on from today's session, we'll be sending out a replay of this recording later on today, and you can find the replay and future sessions at www.lightbulb-sessions.haysummit.com. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you again, Dan and Fran.
Thank you.